Components of computer. Computers have become one of the most important things we need in our lives, especially in this time of the pandemic when everything turned online, from classes to payments to board meetings and everything else. A computer is a machine that is made up of various parts or components which help it in carrying out instructions, which are in the form of arithmetic commands or different algorithms for it to process. The main things that comprise a computer are motherboard, CPU, GPU, RAM and hard disk drive for the storage of all the data. A motherboard is a circuit board through which all the different components of a computer communications, and it keeps everything together through input units or devices like keyboard, joystick, etc. These inputs are then processed and converted to computer language, and then the response is the output in the language that we understand or the one we have programmed the computer with. The result of the command we provide the computer with through the input device is called the output. The most used is the monitor, since we give commands using the keyboard and after the processing, the result or outcome is displayed on the monitor. Central Processing Unit, CPU. The CPU is called the brain of the computer since no action can take place without its permission and execution as the main processing unit. It communicates with all the other components of the computer and has three components that help in the smooth functioning of the CPU. Memory unit. The information entered through the input devices is saved in the memory of the CPU and then passed on to the other parts. Similarly, when the output is ready, it is saved in the memory before the result is given to the user. Control unit. It collects the data entered, leads it on for processing after the processing is done, receives the output and provides it to the user. So getting instructions, decoding it, signaling the execution and receiving the output is done by the control center, and hence it is called the center of all processing actions that happen in the computer. This unit does mathematical calculations, arithmetic operations, comparison of data and decision making. The graphics processing unit or the video card helps generate high-end visuals like the ones in video games. The RAM is also known as the volatile memory since it gets erased every time the computer restarts. It stores the data regarding the programs which are frequently accessed programs and processes. The computers need to store all their data, and they have either a hard disk drive, HDD, or a solid-state drive, SSD, for this purpose. Hard disk drives are disks that store data, and this data is read by a mechanical arm. There is no need for a mechanical arm to find data on a physical location on the drive, and therefore this takes no time at all. Its function is to connect all of the components so that they may communicate and work together. The motherboard is the main board that is screwed into the computer case directly. Its function is to connect all of the components so that they may communicate and work together. Input unit. The main function of the input unit is to send commands and transfer data into computers. Later, the data gets processed by the computer CPU, which generates output. The main function of the input unit is to send commands and transfer data into computers. Later, the data gets processed by the computer CPU, which generates output. Output unit. The computer's response is relayed through output devices in the form of a visual response, monitor, sound, speakers, or media devices, CD or DVD drives. The function of these devices is to convert the machine's response into a format that the computer user can understand. Central Processing Unit, CPU. The CPU can be regarded as a computer's brain. It reads data from the RAM and processes it in order for the computer to do the tasks it is programmed to do. It reads data from the RAM and processes it in order for the computer to do the tasks it is programmed to do. GPU is a specialized processor that is created to accelerate graphics processing. Random Access Memory, RAM. RAM is a form of data storage that allows for faster read and write operations. RAM is a form of data storage that allows for faster read and write operations. RAM is also volatile, which means that if the power goes out, it loses all of the data it has stored. Storage unit. This device stores all the data and the instructions required for processing. Components of computer questions and answers. Storage memory. Input devices. Central processing unit. Output unit. None of the above. DVD. Random access memory. Read-only memory. Internal hard drive. None of the above. What are the main components of a CPU? The three main components of the CPU are the memory unit, control unit, and arithmetic and logical unit.